Welcome to Data Analysis with Power BI course. I'm so glad to have you in the class. In this full-length course, we are going to learn all about Power BI when it comes to data analysis. As this is a fairly complex and comprehensive course, I have provided sample workbooks that contain data sets, completed example file so that you can follow along in a nice manner. I highly recommend setting time aside to complete this course in one go so that you can learn, understand and appreciate what Power BI is all about. Let's get in. In this particular video, the skills that you will gain are Power Query for data cleanup, data modeling, introductory DAX and Power Pivot, working with various visuals within Power BI, and overall Power BI familiarity. In terms of the agenda, we are gonna look at these things. We'll start by talking about what is Power BI, and then I will explain the data cleanup situations. Then we will answer specific business related questions using Power BI visuals and data analysis features. We will then talk about trends and forecast type of analysis with built-in features of Power BI. You will then understand how to save, publish your work with Power BI and how to manage the data updates and the refresh process. We will conclude by talking about resources to learn Power BI so that you can take your learning forward. For the purpose of this particular course, I'm going to use a fictional company called Awesome Chocolates. Regular viewers of my channel are familiar with this particular company. So let's go over to Power BI now. This is how when you open Power BI, it looks on your computer. For your reference, I'm running Power BI desktop software, the latest version. It is December 2021 version. If you do not have this particular software, you can download it for free from the Microsoft website. So here it is, the website. I have put a link for this in the video description as well. When you go to this website, there is going to be this big yellow button, download free, and you can download it. The Power BI desktop software, which is what we are gonna use now, is a free application that you can install on any Windows computer. Apart from the free Power BI desktop software, Power BI also offers a monthly subscription plan or a paid plan for you to share your work and publish your data online so that you can collaborate with your teams. We'll talk more about that towards the end of the video. For now, I'm just going to close this so that we can come to the main open screen of Power BI and just get a quick familiarity of what is on the screen. The Power BI screen can be divided into four main areas. You have a big ribbon on the top, and this lists all the key functionalities of the application. The ribbon itself is further divided into 4 or 5 different ribbons and additional ribbons that will come and go depending on what you're doing at any specific time. If you are familiar with other Office software such as Excel or Outlook, you can contrast this ribbon with those tools. The main ribbon that we will be using throughout the initial few minutes is the Home ribbon, but later on we will go into the other ribbons. The next big area is the dotted line area in the middle. This is the canvas area or the visual area. So this is where you will build your reports or your data analysis. Again, this is blank because we don't have anything in our Power BI workbook currently. You have a couple of panels that can be collapsed or expanded on the right hand side. The two main panels that you will be working on are the visualizations panel and the fields panel. And on the left hand side, there is a tiny bar that shows options for you to switch between different views. Again, since we don't have any data, this is all going to be blank. So let's load up some data so that I can explain how each of these four areas behave. We'll start by clicking on the Get Data. When you get into Power BI, the Get Data button is available in multiple places. So I can use my Fields button, I can use the button options here, or I can use the one there. For the purpose of this exercise, we will get the data from the Excel file. Let me quickly show you what is in that Excel file. So this is the sample data that we shall be using. It is for the fictional company Awesome Chocolates, and we have the sales information from the year 2021 in this workbook. Each row tells us what happened on a specific date for a specific salesperson. So for example, here Barfani sold to the geography of New Zealand product named Raspberry Choco on the 1st of Jan 2021 for $8,414. Now, if I want to know a little bit more about who is Barfani or what is the type of product Raspberry Choco, then we need to follow the thread here. So this is where the other data tab comes in. In the other data tab, I have 3 additional tables, each table explaining one aspect of the business. This is my product table, and if I select Raspberry Choco, I can see that it is a bar category product and it is a large sized product. Likewise, New Zealand is in the APAC region. Likewise, Barfani belongs to Yummy's team, and we have his picture as well. So this is how our data is available. So I'll click on import data from Excel. Notice that while for the specific example here I'm using Excel file, you could use Power BI to import data from SQL Server or paste data directly or use any of the myriad types of data sets that Power BI supports. Locate the file on your computer. If you have already downloaded it, just point to the downloaded workbook and click open. This will show you a navigator screen and it will give you option to pick the data that you want to work with. In our Excel file, Power BI located that there are 4 different tables and we need to use all the 4 tables to paint a full picture of the business. So I'm going to just select all these 4 items. We don't need to select the data or the other data options. And we will click on this load button to load up the data. Eventually, Power BI will load the data. And now you can see that many of the screen options have quickly changed. We can see all the 4 tables available for us on the right hand side. And I can expand a table to see the available fields or columns for me to work with. And if I go to a different view, so from the visual or report view, if I go to my data view, I can browse the data as well. So if I select the sales table, I'm able to see what is in the sales table. Likewise, there is also a model view through which we can connect the tables. Notice that Power BI would have automatically connected some of the tables, but not all of them. Let's just expand on this connection feature. We see that people table and product table are connected to sales. If I point on the line, I can see that salesperson in the people table is connected to the salesperson in the sales table. This is perfect because once the connection is established, I am able to go and learn a little bit more about my data by using the other aspects of the people table. Again, if this is your first time using Power BI, some of these words or concepts might seem unfamiliar to you, but as we make progress, everything becomes clear. Same on the product side, the product column here is linked to the product column there. What about the geography? Why is it not automatically linked? This is because the default behavior within Power BI is if the column names match, then Power BI will try to connect them. But if the column names do not match, because geo is what it is called here, whereas it is called geography here, Power BI wouldn't connect them. But we know that they mean the same thing. So I'm going to click on geography, hold and drag and drop it on the geography here, and a relationship will be established. Notice that when you make a relationship, the relationship will have a type of cardinality here. So this says it is 1 and then star here. This type of relationship is called one-to-many relationship. It simply means each geography will only appear once in the locations table, but it can appear many number of times in the sales table. A more common way of thinking this is you have 6 geographies and to each geography you can sell any number of times. Hence the name one-to-many. You might be thinking, what does this arrow mean? This arrow indicates the direction of the filters. So now that our data model is set up, everything is linked up, let's go and first make a visual to understand what everything looks like. And then if needed, we will go and clean the data. So to start off, what I want to do is I want to understand how we are selling to each of the geographies that we operate in. We operate in 6 different countries, as you might remember from the locations table. So I want to just see how much we are selling to each of the 6 countries. So we'll put a column chart. When you click on a visual, Power BI will automatically add a visual for you on the screen. You can move this around. You can also resize this. So let's make it nice and big. And I want to see the locations on the axis. So we'll go to the locations table, select the geography and put it on the axis for the visual so that each location will show up on the axis. Right now it is still blank because only when you add a value, then only things will show up. So we will add a value. The value that we want to see is the total amount. So I'll take the amount and put it into the values area and then we will get these values. I can see our 6 geographies here, but there is a blank geography as well. This is concerning. I thought we only had 6 countries. Where is this blank coming from? So this is the time for us to go and examine the data a bit more carefully. If you notice the geography column in the data file itself, even though we have 6 geographies, there is some inconsistent spacing. This looks suspicious. If I go to this cell, it is USA, but there is some extra additional blank spaces in the beginning. This is why we are having a problem. You have 2 options here. You can change the data in the original workbook, clean it up, and then Power BI will get the correct data and then it will be able to map the relationships and the blank will no longer appear. Or we can clean the data at the Power BI level. Let's clean the data at Power BI level. To do this, from Home ribbon, we need to go to the Transform Data option. This will open up a separate screen and this screen is called Power Query Editor. Power Query is the data processing engine of Power BI. Using Power Query, we are able to tell Power BI how we would like our data to be processed, cleaned, or reshaped. As you can clearly see here, my geography column has inconsistent spacing. An easy fix for this is we would just like to remove any extra spaces in the beginning or in the end. This operation is called trimming. All we have to do is right click on the geography column, transform and then trim, and that will clean up the spaces on the geography column. When you do these kind of changes, none of the data in your original Excel file changes. Power BI will simply add a rule at its level saying that whenever there is a space, just remove it. Because it is a rule, whenever your original data changes and you rerun the process, it will automatically get the data, apply that rule again. So this is kind of like a very powerful automation feature built right into Power BI. You can just close and apply to commit these changes to the data. So once we do that, notice that magically our blank is gone and we again see all our geographies. You can clearly see that India is our biggest geography in terms of the amount of sales, followed by New Zealand, UK, and Australia is our smallest geography. Let's move this to the side so that we can also look at the amounts by individual salespeople. So for this purpose, I will pick a different chart. I'm going to choose the bar chart. And within this, on the axis, I want to put my salesperson name. And then again, we will see the amount. While this shows the amount by salesperson, it is a little bit too much detail. So I would like to take away salesperson and instead look at the amounts by teams. So I'll delete the salesperson by clicking on the X mark here and then drag and drop salesperson team into axis. We see that there are 4 teams: Yummies, Delish, Juices, and blank. We have another data cleanup problem here. Before we go and fix this, let's first understand another crucial feature of Power BI. I want to know where these blank people are selling to. So if I click on the blank, notice that instantly the portion that corresponds to this blank team is highlighted here. We can use this kind of a thing to investigate problems in our data. So we could use this feature by adding a table. And in this table, let's put all our salespeople. And these are the blank people. These are the people that don't have any teams. Camilla, Chess, Jehu, etc. Whereas if I go to Juices, I can see who are the members of the Juices team. So this is a powerful way for us to investigate where the problem areas are. But the biggest takeaway for all of us is every visual within Power BI is interactive. So if you click on one visual, an item on that, then all other visuals will instantly respond and highlight or filter the values that corresponds to what you picked. This creates for such a dynamic and powerful reporting setup for all of us. And that is why the interactivity feature of Power BI is one of my most favorite areas of Power BI. Okay, time for us to go and fix the blank problem. So if I go to the data view and look at my people, we can see that certain people do not have an associated team name there. One way is, if this is blank, then I want to call them as special team. So to do that, again, we can go to the home, transform data, go to the people table, and notice that the blank values appear as a null within Power Query. And here we can add a rule. The rule will be a replace values rule. And we would like to replace all the nulls with special. One note of caution here, Power Query is case sensitive. So you will have to specify value to find as small letters null. And again, this will add a rule rather than manually replacing. So if you get updated data and there is still some null values, they will all be called special. We'll close and apply this. Now they will all be called special. If I go to the report view, I no longer have a blank, I have a special. And I can pick that and then I will see those people. This concludes part 1 of our class, data cleanup. In the next part, we are going to look at how to do business analysis with Power BI. Before we do that, let's just quickly save the file. To save, click on the save icon on the top or go to file and then save. Your Power BI workbooks are saved with a .pbix extension in your computer. For the next part of our analysis, we will pick the problem of analyzing the salesperson performance. Along the way, you will learn various visuals and how to use the DAX or Power Pivot part of the Power BI. We shall do all of this analysis in a blank page. To add a new page, click on the plus button at the bottom and you can add a page. By default, these pages will be named as page 1, page 2 like that. But you can double click to give it a name. Within this page, we would like to understand how each of our salespeople are doing. Because we have quite a big team, using a table visual for overview of everybody is a good idea. Within this table visual, I'm gonna put our salesperson name. I want to see what is the total amount for each salesperson. To do that, we have been adding the amount column to the values area and letting Power BI do the automatic calculations. But now let's take control of this by defining the calculation logic ourselves. So to do this, right click on the sales table and use the new measure option. You can trigger new measure like this or using the new measure button on the home ribbon. When you do this, Power BI will open a formula bar for you to define the measure logic. The language that you use to create these measures is called DAX, Data Analysis Expressions. So we'll create a very simple measure so that you can understand how DAX works. The measure name will be total amount, and this is nothing but the sum of my sales table amount column. You don't need to type everything. When you see the highlighted value in this light blue color, you can press the tab key and let Power BI do the typing for you. So this is the definition of the measure, sum of sales amount, and this formula will be used wherever you apply total amount, and for that scenario or the situation, total amount will be calculated. So we will commit this with the tick mark and you will see that total amount appears as a measure on the sales table. Measures are denoted with a special calculator symbol on the screen so that when you have a big field list, you can easily spot the measures. A measure not only has logic definition like what the measure means, but it also has a visual definition. To do that, while you are editing the measure, you can use the measure tools ribbon to set the formatting. Because this is a currency, I want this to appear with dollars with 0 decimal points. And now if you add the total amount to the table, for each person, their total amount will be automatically calculated. We can think of measures as teeny tiny calculators that are attached on top of the data. While the measure doesn't physically exist in the backend table, it will be dynamically calculated and shown whenever you use it on the visuals within Power BI. In this table, we are seeing all the salespeople, but let's just say you want to see one team at a time. To limit the data that is going to the table, we could use a filter or a slicer. So let's add the slicer visual. A slicer will give you choices to pick from, and within this slicer, I'm gonna put my team so that we will have 4 buttons, 1 per team. And now I can pick a specific team, Delish, Juices, Special or Emmys, and then just see their salespeople and the totals for them. Let's understand how to adjust the fonts and colors of these things so that it looks in a more report fashion rather than a bunch of things put together. So we'll select the table visual, and then from the visualizations panel, from the build, we go to the format visual options, the paintbrush one. And from here, you can set the formatting of everything. To start off, I'm going to the values, and from here, I will change the font size from 10 points to 16 points so that everything is nice and big. You can use the grid options to set the row padding. Right now it is 1. If you change this, there will be more white space given so that things become easy to read. Let's make the header also 20 points and add a background color and change the color of the header to white and change the font to Sego UI Bold. Because we are looking at a team level, I think the total is not really required. So I'm just going to turn off the total altogether. So we are only looking at the values. Because there are multiple visualization formatting settings that are available, sometimes it is hard for us to remember where everything is. This is why normally when I use Power BI, I don't actually go and look for things. I just type them in the search. So for example, if I want to adjust the font size, I will search for size and it will list all the sizes that I can play with. And from here, I might make the adjustment. In this case, I think the font is a better option. So here font, and then I can adjust the 16 points to whatever I want. I think that looks good, but let's circle back to the concepts of DAX and build few more measure. To start off, let's add what is the total boxes. To do that, we are going to define another new measure. So right click, new measure, and this is total boxes is equal to sum of, and then using the auto suggest, you can just type B and tab and it will give you the whole thing. We will format this as a whole number with thousands separator and 0 decimals. And again, we can select the visual and add total boxes. Because this is a sales performance report, I would like to sort this on the total amount. So we just click on the total amount, and then the best performing salesperson within the currently selected team goes to the top. At Awesome Chocolates, we would like to calculate the amount per boxes as well so that we can see which salespeople are bringing in more money per box. Given the fact that we already have total amount and total boxes calculated as 2 measures, we can create a third composite measure that shows amount per boxes here. To do this, simply right click on the sales table, add a new measure. This measure would be amount per box, and it is nothing but total amount divided by total boxes. You might think it's a little bit confusing how we are referring to the measures as directly like this within square brackets, but when we refer a table column, for example, sum of sales boxes, we use the table name, column name notation. So when do you use this format and when do you use that format? The logic is very simple. When you are referring to another measure in the workbook, you simply use it directly without specifying the table name. This is because a measure gets same result irrespective of which table it is on. Whereas when you refer to an actual column in the table, you must always specify the table name and column name. So we will add that, and I'm just going to set this formatting as $, with 1 decimal point. And now we will have amount per box as a measure available to us in the table, and I can add it to my visual. I can see that amount per box varies per individual, but certain individuals have very high amount per box even though they are not selling as high as other people. Let us say from a performance perspective, amount per box is the most important metric, and we would like to highlight this in the report by showing a little bit more visual indication of how high this number is. To do this, we could use the conditional formatting feature of Power BI. Select the amount per box and click on that little down arrow, and from here I can add conditional formatting. Let's select the data bars. You can see that there are many other types of conditional formatting available, but data bar is what we will work with. For now, I'm just going to click OK so that we can get the default data bar. As you could clearly see, the data bar will print a bar inside the cell, and it will be as long as the value is. So the highest value takes up the biggest bar and everything else is scaled down automatically. And everything is interactive. So if I select a different team, I'll get the values like that. If you want, you can adjust the color or the sizing of these things. So let's just say I want to adjust. So we can go conditional formatting, data bar. And from this blue color, let's just change this to this color, amount per box. And then the maximum value, let's just set, instead of highest value, I'm going to set it to a custom value of 25. What this will do is it will assume that the whole cell is equal to 25, and based on the value, it will scale things down. So this will make things a bit more readable for us. Our sales performance report is looking pretty good and interactive. Let's learn a few more tricks to make this a bit more visual and interesting. If you go to the table view, you will notice that in the people table, we have a picture of our employees. So let's add a little bit of color and personality to our reports by bringing in the picture of our employees. To do this, select the table and then locate the picture and add it right after the salesperson. By default, the picture will show up as the URL. But we know that this is not the URL. We need to get the actual picture itself. So to do this, we will go back to the table view, select the picture column, and from the column tools ribbon that appears only when you select a column, set the data category from uncategorized to image URL. This is a one-time step, and when you do this, henceforth, whenever you use the picture column in any of your visuals, it will be treated as an image, and the actual image will be used instead of the text value of the URL. Now, when you go back, you will see the people's pictures along with their data. It looks a little bit more presentable and interesting, and when you see the picture, you can immediately relate to the team members. You can move the picture to the front. If you think the picture is too big, you can also adjust the size by going to the format and looking for the height argument of the image height. I'm going to make my images 40 pixels height so that they are there, but they're not taking up too much space. Let's add a few more details to our sales performance report. Whenever I select an individual salesperson in the report, I want to see how well they sell to various geographies as well as which categories they are selling. So let's go and build these graphs. So I'm going to add a column chart, and in this column chart from the product, we'll pick the category onto axis and total amount into the values. So this is right now showing all the special teams values, but if I pick any individual, Jehu, I can see that Jehu is selling bars, bytes, and other like this. While this is good, the problem with this approach is it is showing me the proportion of Jehu as against her entire team. What I instead want to see is when I click on Jehu, I want this graph to reflect just Jehu's data alone. So this kind of thing requires a little bit more customization on the interactive behavior of Power BI. As I mentioned earlier, everything in Power BI visual is interactive. So if you click on one item, the other items respond. But how they respond is by default decided by Power BI. But we can customize this. So when we click on the table, we want this to change. So I'm going to select my table and then go to Format and click on Edit Interactions. Because this table can interact with that slicer as well as this graph, Power BI will show some additional icons on top of the graph. We don't need to touch this side, we only need to adjust this. And right now the behavior that we have is highlighted behavior. So the middle icon is enabled. There are three kinds of interactions that you can have on the visuals. You can highlight, you can filter, or you can have no interaction. So from highlight, I'm gonna switch to filter. What this will immediately do is when you select something, only that value will be shown here. So I can select Mallory, Jehu, but if I unselect that, then I'm seeing all the team. Uncheck the edit interaction so that those icons go away, and we have set the interaction. So now I can click on Jehu or Mallory or chess and then just see how they are doing by category. Let's add one more graph. This one needs to be total amount that goes to individual geographies. You can add it from here, or if you already have a graph that you like, you can just Control C, Control V, resize it, and then from axis just change it to what you want. So this is how the special teams geographical performance looks like, and if I pick someone, I will see that. For now, I will leave this interaction here as highlight, but if you want, you can also change this to filter option. So far our report looks good, but it needs a proper title and our Awesome Chocolates logo on the top so that when you publish it, people can read it and understand what is going on. To add the title, you can go to the home ribbon and click on text box and type the title. You can move the text box anywhere on the screen, resize it, and adjust the font sizes as well. To add the logo, go to the insert ribbon and click on image. I have provided you a copy of the Awesome Chocolates logo PNG file, but feel free to use any file from your computer. The logo will be added. Again, this is just a box, so you can resize it and position it wherever you want on the report. Okay, everything looks good, but I'm just feeling a little bit uncomfortable with our slicer. Because we only have 4 teams, we don't need 4 boxes. I thought we could cut down on the space that is used. You can select the slicer and click on that little arrow, and from here, instead of a list, you can change this to a drop down. So you can pick a team from this, or if you want to clear, you can use the clear selections option. If you want to rename a particular chart, so for example, instead of total amount by category, you want to call this as category performance. To do that, just go to general, and then from there is a title option. You can type the title yourself, and that is what it will say here. You can even add a background color on the title, change the font options if you want. So that is our category performance. Feel free to make similar adjustments to the geographical part as well. As we make these adjustments, you might notice that there is actually quite a bit of white space here. I deliberately left out this white space so that you can fill it up with your imagination. Do let me know in the comments what awesome things you're building in that white space. And that concludes the second part of our tutorial. In part 3, we are going to learn how to do trend analysis and forecasting using Power BI. Let's go. To do the trend and forecast analysis, you obviously need some sort of data that has a time or date component. In this situation, our sales data has a date and an amount attached to it. Likewise, we also have customers and boxes. For the purpose of this exercise, I would like to understand how many customers we are serving on daily basis in the year 2021, and then see the trend and if possible do some forecasting for the year of 2022. To understand the trend, you can use a line or an area chart. Let's insert a line chart, and on the axis, I'm gonna put my date. Whenever you have a date within Power BI automatically builds a date hierarchy for us. For these dates, I would like to see how many customers we are serving. We don't have any measure on the customers, so I'm gonna quickly build a measure. You can do the analysis without building the measure, but as a good practice, you should always build the measures and then use them. This way you will have better control of what is going where and how to display them. So when you add this, we will only see a single dot instead of a line. This is because our graph has already built in the hierarchy and it is showing me the data at the highest level, which is for the entire year of 2021. To see the trend at a lower level by quarter or month, we need to use the pitchfork icon or the icon that looks like this. So I'm going to click on it once. It will show me the quarterly trend. Let's go to the monthly trend and explore what is going on. So this is how our pattern is. From Jan, we trend down all the way up until June, and then we pick up in July, August, and then we go down. Then we are picking up back again at the end of the year. Just keep in the mind that while Awesome Chocolates does sell chocolates, it is a made-up company and all this data is randomly generated. So what we are seeing is not really a trend, but more of a random noise. This is our overall trend. We can add a level of filtering to it to see the trend by, for example, individual product category or a geography. Let's see whether the trend looks like this for all categories or not. So I'm going to select this chart, and in the legend, I'm going to add my product category. This will split the line into 3 different lines, one per category. So this is my trend and at a monthly level. If I want, I can go one level down to the daily level, but because at a daily level there could be a lot of fluctuation, it creates more noise than meaning. So to go up to the higher level, we can use the up arrow icon. Now let's just forecast this for the next 3 months. You can add forecasts and trend lines and other things through the analytics option here. From here, we are currently not able to add the forecast. In order to be able to forecast, you need to have only one series on the chart, not 3 different ones. So I will go here, I will remove the category so that we are looking at the overall customers by month. And now if I go back here, I will find that I have a forecast option. I can enable that and Power BI will add a forecast for the next few months. So I'll change the units from points to months. And then I want the forecast for next 3 months with a 95% confidence interval. And when you apply, it will give you the forecast. So the forecast says your number of customers could go down in January and then they'll stay like that in Feb and March. Just a note of caution when you use the built-in trend analysis or the forecasting features of Power BI. They are purely built on the statistical techniques. So when Power BI says your forecast is looking down or up, it has no idea about your business or your complex real-world situation. So this is my total customers forecast. I would like to build a similar forecast for total amount. So I'll Control C this chart, Control V. And within this chart, I'm going to change from total customers to total amount. We'll go here, enable the forecast. Now that we have built the forecasting within Power BI, let's conclude this part of the tutorial and then move on to the next part where we are going to talk about how to save and publish our Power BI reports so that other people can read them. Let's go. If you want to share this workbook with others in the organization, then you need to use the publish option of Power BI. In order to use the publish features, you need an online account with Power BI. And this is how Power BI makes money. Let's see what happens when you click on the publish. As I have already logged into my Power BI account, it opens up my workspace and asks you, is this where you want to save? Let's select this workspace and put our report there. Our report is now published to the online workspace and I can view it on the cloud platform. It will ask me to log in if I have not already logged in, and eventually opens the report on the online platform. Your pages will be available to you on the left hand side and you can quickly select that. This view is still assuming that Chandoo is using the report. So this is how I can see it, but I can still edit it if I need it. Everything is still interactive, so I can click on this or I can pick a different team and then see the results. How does this report look to someone who is not Chandoo? For that, we need to use the share options. So here I have opened the Power BI report on a different browser so that it doesn't have my login setting. And now I am seeing the pages as navigation at the bottom. And I can go to different pages of the report to see. Everything is still interactive, but I'm not able to change the report or change the data set. So this is the power or beauty of Power BI. It gives you a 2-tier system where at one level as a data analyst, you can build and control the report, manage the data and everything. And at other level or other tier, The persons who are viewing a report, they can only just view what you have built. So now let us see what happens when your data changes. For the purpose of this, I have given you an extra data file as well. The link for this is also available in the video description. I've already copied the extra data and I'm just going to paste it here now. Notice that this data is for 2022 January. And I will save this file now, go to Power BI, and to get the new data, all you have to do is click on the refresh button here. This will update the data, recalculate all the totals and measures and everything, and your numbers will quickly change. It will also add the January values and then the forecast will be moved further up. If you remember, our forecast was actually predicting that the values will go down, but we had more values in January for both customers and amount. And this is what I mean when I said the forecasting within Power BI is simply statistical and it has no idea about your business. To update the online view of your report, you just have to hit the publish again. It will ask you to save and it will give you a warning that says, I have already found a data set online. Do you want to replace it? We are just going to replace this and it will update the online version of your report. To see the updated values on the online report, you just have to refresh your browser window and then it will show you the updated values on all the pages. So now that you have developed a solid understanding of Power BI, let's talk briefly about how to take your learning forward. One of the biggest challenges when it comes to learning Power BI is many people think Power BI as one big piece of software. But as you have clearly seen, Power BI has separate features or tools to deal with individual problems. If you have data connectivity or cleanup issues, then we use the Power Query to clean the data. If you want to calculate things on your data, then we use the DAX language and Power Pivot to do that. And finally, to tell the stories or build reports, we use the visual layer. So when you are learning Power BI, you should also align yourself against these three layers. I have prepared a detailed one-page PDF of various Power BI resources and channels and books that I personally recommend and use so that you can also learn Power BI. If you would like to get a copy of that, please use the link in the video description below and download that PDF. Thank you so much for watching this lesson. I hope you really enjoyed it. If you enjoyed this video, please share it with one of your friends or colleagues so that they can also learn Power BI and improve their career prospects. Thank you so much. I'll catch you again somewhere else. Bye-bye.